Let me ask you a simple but powerful question. If someone walked into your home right now, a friend, a neighbor, or even a family member, what's the first thing they would notice? Here's the truth. It's not always the warmth of your smile or the care you put into welcoming them. Very often, it's the clutter. And not the big messes hidden in attics or basements, the little everyday spots that quietly scream louder than words. I don't say this to make you feel bad. I say this because I've spoken to so many seniors who felt embarrassed or judged in their own homes, not because they didn't care, but because they overlooked the very places guests notice first. Stay with me until the end of this video, because the last space I'll talk about is one that most seniors don't think about, but it has the biggest impact on how you feel when visitors arrive. Clutter isn't just about things, it's about feelings. For older women especially, clutter can quietly chip away at confidence. You might feel capable and dignified most days, but when someone points out, or even just sees, your clutter, it can leave you feeling small, embarrassed, or less than. I want to introduce you to Margaret, a 74-year-old retired librarian. For years, Margaret loved hosting. Sunday dinners, afternoon tea, even casual visits from neighbors, it all brought her joy. But as time passed, she began to notice something shifting. Guests weren't commenting on her cooking or her kindness anymore. They were noticing the shoes at her door, the piles of papers on her table, the clutter she had stopped seeing herself. Margaret told me, "I didn't feel like myself anymore. My house didn't reflect the woman I wanted to be." Today, we're going to walk through the exact clutter traps Margaret faced, the ones guests noticed the most, and how she overcame them. Along the way, I'll share the psychology and science behind why these spots matter so much, and the small steps you can take to restore not just your home, but also your confidence. The first impression of your home isn't your living room or your kitchen, it's your entryway. Guests often see the shoes, coats, umbrellas, or piles of mail the very moment they step inside. Margaret's daughter once tripped over a pair of sneakers in the hallway. Margaret laughed it off, but inside, she said it cut her deeply. "I realized my home wasn't welcoming anymore. It was a hazard." Researchers from Princeton University discovered that clutter in high-traffic areas can overload the brain, making us feel more stressed without even realizing it. And when clutter piles up in the entryway, it doesn't just clutter the space, it clutters the mood of every person who walks in. Margaret fixed it with one basket for shoes, one hook for coats, and a small dish for keys. A 5-minute evening reset became her new ritual. The next time her daughter visited, she smiled and said, "Mom, this feels so much better." Small steps, big difference. Guests always notice the bathroom. Even if you don't mean for them to, they'll see the expired lotions, half-used bottles, and cluttered counters. Margaret once overheard a friend whisper about the state of her bathroom during a book club meeting. It wasn't cruel, but it stung. She felt her dignity was slipping away. Here's what psychologists say. Clutter in intimate spaces like bathrooms creates shame. And shame is one of the most painful emotions we carry. Margaret cleared her counters, kept a small tray with only soap, a fresh towel, and a clean cup. She threw out products she hadn't used in years. Afterward, she told me, "My bathroom felt like a sanctuary again, not a storage closet." Guests noticed the difference, but more importantly, so did she. Dining tables are meant for meals and connection, but too often, they become dumping grounds. Bills, sewing projects, half-finished puzzles, piles of papers. Margaret's dining table was so cluttered that she avoided inviting anyone over. "I couldn't even set a plate down," she confessed. Studies at UCLA showed that visible paper clutter increases cortisol levels, the stress hormone, even when we try to ignore it. That means your dining table isn't just messy, it's stressing you out daily. Margaret started using the reset to empty rule. After every meal, she cleared the table completely. No piles, no lingering projects. Just space. Within weeks, she said, I started feeling proud of my home again. I wanted people to sit with me, not stare at stacks. Your living room is where guests sit. And while you may not see the problem anymore, they notice the stacks of old magazines, the cluttered coffee table, or the unused gadgets gathering dust. Margaret remembered a moment when her church friends visited. As they chatted, she caught one friend staring at her cluttered side table. She said, I felt judged, even though they didn't say a word. The science backs this up. Clutter in shared spaces reduces focus and increases anxiety for everyone present. Margaret transformed her living room by keeping just 2 items per surface: a lamp and a framed photo on her side table, a vase of flowers on the coffee table. She told me, "Now my living room feels like a place to connect again, not a place to apologize for." Here's the thing, even if guests don't step into your bedroom, you feel it. That quiet shame of knowing it's messy makes you less confident when hosting. Margaret admitted, "I never gave house tours anymore. I didn't want anyone to see my closet stuffed with decades of clothes." Research on clutter and sleep shows that messy bedrooms are linked to poorer sleep quality, higher stress, and lower mood. Even if no one else sees it, you carry the burden internally. Margaret started with 1 drawer, then 1 shelf. Over time, she reclaimed her space. And she noticed something surprising. My confidence came back. I wasn't hiding anymore. The kitchen tells guests more about us than we think. Margaret's grandson once asked, "Grandma, why do you have 3 toasters?" She laughed, but later admitted it hurt. Cluttered kitchens are linked to unhealthy eating and stress. When counters are crowded, even making tea feels overwhelming. Margaret decided on a new rule: 1 appliance on the counter at a time. The rest stayed tucked away. She added a bowl of fresh fruit, and suddenly her kitchen felt alive again. Guests noticed, and so did she. Why does clutter sting so deeply when guests notice? Because it touches our dignity. It makes us feel exposed. For seniors, it can even trigger fears of losing independence. Margaret said, "I was terrified my kids would think I couldn't care for myself anymore." Science confirms this. Shame triggers cortisol spikes and damages self-esteem. But clearing clutter restores a sense of control. When Margaret started decluttering for herself, not just for guests, her confidence grew. She said, "It wasn't about impressing anyone. It was about finally feeling like me again." Sometimes, the guests who matter most aren't friends or neighbors, they're family. Children, grandchildren, even caregivers. Margaret realized her clutter wasn't just making her self-conscious, it was shaping how her family saw her. But when she cleared her home, her children told her, "Mom, your house feels so peaceful again." That comment meant everything. It wasn't about the clutter, it was about dignity. Decluttering one space often creates a ripple effect. Margaret started with her entryway, then her dining table, then her living room. Before long, she was hosting again with joy. Studies show that decluttering reduces stress, improves sleep, and boosts mood. But Margaret put it best, "I felt like I got myself back." So let's recap. The clutter traps guests notice most: entryways, bathrooms, dining tables, living rooms, kitchens, and even the hidden spaces like your bedroom. But the real story isn't about what guests see, it's about how you feel. Margaret's transformation reminds us, decluttering isn't about perfection. It's about peace, confidence, and reclaiming dignity. So here's my challenge to you. Before your next visitor, clear just 1 space. The entryway, the table, or the bathroom counter. Notice how you feel afterward. Because clutter doesn't just take space. It takes joy. And you deserve to get that joy back. If this video touched you, share it with a friend or loved one. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories, strategies, and encouragement. Because together, we can make these years lighter, freer, and filled with more peace.